Another mini tutorial, this is how I make my walking skirts. These are not historically accurate, but they are heavily influenced by the late Victorian era. Smooth front, pleated back. Also not historically accurate, but I've added pockets. Quick disclaimer, this is another Instagram series, hence the portrait mode, and being divided into different parts. I've also updated my written instructions, so there will be a link down below for that. I hope this helps. Let me know if you have questions. Also, if you're wondering why I'm holding my skirt up instead of having it closed, I am dealing with some gut issues at the moment, which means my skirt don't fit me. This is going to be a full part series, drafting the pattern, sewing the skirt, adding pockets, and adding waistband. Here's how to draft your pattern. Imagine this is your fabric, and we're going to use the full width of it. I start by deciding how long I want the skirt to be and add seam allowance. I divide my fabric into 2 strips of that height, and then I cut an extra strip for the waistband, and we'll talk more about that later. The corner of this waistband is also going to become a little modesty panel. Now, let's divide those 2 strips into panels. I never really plan my pleats in the back, but rather just make the skirt big enough to have plenty of excess to pleat. The only pieces I care about are the 3 front pieces, so let's start with those. On the first strip, I'm going to mark the center and measure out my center front piece. Mine is 26 centimeters wide at the top and 68 at the bottom. Whatever is left on the sides will be side back pieces. For reference, these measurements are for a waist of 8 centimeters, so adjust according to your size. On the second strip, I mark the center again, then draw 2 side front pieces. Mine are 14 centimeters at the top and 36 at the bottom. Again, what is left on the sides become back pieces. Next, I'm going to round off the bottom line so that all side edges are the same length. And I'm going to cut out a tiny curve at the top of the front pieces. And that is the whole pattern. Time to actually do some sewing. We'll start with the center front, adding a side front to each side. I try to avoid putting 2 bias edges together when possible, so combine 1 bias with a straight grain if you can. Stitch these pieces together and finish the insides whichever way you feel like. I usually fell the seams, but it's too fiddly on this miniature though, so I will leave it raw. Now take your 2 side back pieces and attach 1 to each of the side fronts. Note that if you want pockets, you need to leave a slit at the top. After that, we add the 2 last back pieces. And then we join them together at the center back. Here you need to leave a slit again at the top. Now, take your little modesty panel and hem 2 of the edges, one side edge and the bottom edge. Then attach it to one side of the back slit with the raw side that you haven't hemmed and stitch it into place. The point of this modesty panel is to avoid any gaping. Wait with hemming the lower edge until after you've attached the waistband. Now we have a skirt that is way too big, so we're going to start pleating it. I like adding a pleat or 2 before the pocket to hide that opening a bit, but the rest of the pleats just go in the back. So you can see they're all folded towards the back and then mirrored on the other side. The pleats in the back might overlap depending on how much fabric you have, and that creates the nice full butt that we love. You can use math to calculate how tight your pleats need to be, or you can just experiment until the skirt is the desired waist measurements. I'm a big fan of fuck around and find out. Once I've pleated it, I like to run a basting stitch over all the pleats to make sure they stay in place neatly for the rest of the process. And now we have that lovely full back and the smooth clean front. Walking skirt tutorial part 3, pockets. These are not historically accurate, this is just how I like to do them. First I find some durable, suitable fabric. Then draw a shape sort of like this. The rounded corners are to stop filth from getting stuck in the corners, and the slanted side is for the opening, so it needs to match my side front. Cut 4 pieces like this. Then hem the opening edges. After that we're going to French seam the outer edge by sewing a seam, trimming it down, then turning it inside out and stitching again. Now align it with your skirt on the inside and sew it in place with a basting stitch at the top. At this point also align the side back and the side front so that both edges meet the opening of the pocket. When it's basted into place, we're going to hand stitch the opening with 1/2 against the side front and 1 against the side back, so that your pocket is attached to this piece of fabric and attached to this piece of fabric. The top of the pocket is going to be stitched properly into place together with a waistband later, but more on that tomorrow. I like making pockets like this because the weight is then distributed along the whole waistband instead of at the side seam. Sometimes they will meet at the center front and sometimes they are even overlapping. Do not recommend that. But I like to make them big because honestly, what's the point of pockets unless you can carry plenty of books in them? And the small pleats at the front also means the pocket is sort of hidden among the pleats, which I really like. I'm going to show you how to make a straight waistband. I like to make mine a bit fancy with a dip, but that is also more complicated, so we will leave that for now. Start by measuring how wide you want it, for example 4 centimeters. Multiply that by 4, so 16 centimeters. Cut a strip of that width with a length that is your waist plus the width of your modesty panel and seam allowance. Now take that strip, fold each edge in towards the middle, and then fold it again and press it. If you want to, you can add fusible or some other kind of stiffener or an extra layer. And we're going to open the waistband up, draw a line 1.5 centimeter over the fold, and then align the top of the skirt to this line, with the outside of the skirt facing towards the waistband. Let the ends of your waistband extend slightly past the edges of the skirt, and then stitch along the fold that you ironed. And once you've done that, we're going to fold the ends in before folding the whole waistband down and pinning it into place. Now you can either hand sew this inside for a neater finish, or you can make sure you pin the inside slightly lower than the outside and then stitch in the ditch, aka sew so that your seam is exactly where the two pieces are joined. That will secure the waistband on the inside, but the seam will be almost invisible from the outside. And now that you have your waistband, you are simply going to attach some kind of closure. I like using sturdy hooks and eyes, or buttons, or these kinds of hooks and bars that attach and then they're almost invisible. Stitch those into place, put the skirt on, see if the hem is even. You might need to shorten the front depending on your body and your booty, but after that just hem it, and then you have a walking skirt and you're ready to go out, conquer the world, or read books, one of the two. Okay, so that was it for this series. Thank you for watching if you got this far, and good luck if you ever try to make this yourself.